A powersports dealership is not just a showroom. It is infrastructure, real estate, payroll, service capacity, parts inventory, tools, insurance, administration, floor plan, management, marketing. Those costs exist 12 months a year, but in many motorcycle markets, demand does not. That creates one of the most important structural questions in powersports retail. How does a dealership support a 12-month cost base when its primary product category may only peak demand for part of the year? That question is not about one dealer. It's not about one city, and it is not about whether motorcycles are still desirable. The issue is deeper than that. It's about whether the dealership model itself is built to match the economic reality of the market it serves. When people look at a dealership, they usually see the front end, the showroom, the inventory, the signs, the brands, the salespeople, the customer experience. But the real business sits underneath that. A dealership is a fixed cost platform. It needs a facility. It needs trained staff. It needs service bays. It needs parts systems. It needs inventory controls, accounting, compliance, marketing, management, insurance, utilities, and capital. And most of those costs are not seasonal. They do not disappear when showroom traffic slows down. They do not pause when the weather changes, and they do not adjust perfectly when customer demand shifts. That's the trap. The dealership has to carry the cost structure all year, even when the core product category may not create demand all year. In some markets, that mismatch is manageable. In others, it becomes structural. And once it becomes structural, the pressure starts showing up everywhere. Margins get thinner, inventory gets older, discounting becomes harder to avoid, staffing becomes more difficult, floor plan becomes more painful, and ownership starts asking whether the facility, the brand standards, and the operating model still match the market. Motorcycles are the emotional center of much of the powersports industry. They create identity. They create community. They create the strongest brand loyalty in the category. They are often the reason a dealership exists in the first place. But in many markets, motorcycles are also highly seasonal. That does not mean they cannot be sold year-round. Of course they can. There are always serious buyers, destination buyers, used bike buyers, finance-driven buyers, and customers who plan ahead. But that is not the same thing as saying demand is evenly distributed across the year. In large parts of North America, Europe, and other seasonal markets, motorcycle activity concentrates around riding season. That creates a business model question that is easy to overlook. If the primary category is seasonal, what supports the dealership outside the peak window? Service helps. Parts help. Apparel can help. Used inventory can help. Storage can help in some markets. Events can help. But the larger issue remains. A single category dealership has fewer ways to spread its fixed cost base. That does not make the model wrong, but it does make the model more exposed. And exposure matters more when the market gets harder, when interest rates rise, inventory ages, insurance becomes more expensive, new rider conversion weakens, and consumers become more cautious. The dealership with fewer revenue cycles has less margin for error. That is the real issue. Not whether a store looks impressive, not whether the brand is famous, not whether the facility is beautiful. The question is whether the operating model gives the dealership enough ways to earn across the full year. This is where the analysis has to be careful. Multi-line is not automatically better. A poorly run multi-line dealership can become a mess. Too many brands, too many standards, too many product categories, too many inventory systems, too much technician complexity, too much staffing pressure, too many competing identities under one roof. A multi-line store that's weak can feel cluttered, unfocused, and operationally stretched. That is not strategy. That is accumulation, and accumulation is not the same as architecture. Just adding more brands does not solve the dealership model. In fact, it can make the business worse if the dealer does not have the management depth, systems, capital discipline, and category expertise to support the complexity. So, the point is not single line bad, multi-line good. That would be lazy. The better point is this: a well-designed multi-line powersports dealership can solve a structural problem that many motorcycle first stores face. It can turn one facility into a broader revenue platform. It can stack demand across seasons. It can spread overhead across multiple product categories. It can give the dealership more ways to keep the building productive. That is the model worth studying. The strongest multi-line dealers are not simply carrying more products. They are building around the calendar. Water products create one demand cycle. Motorcycles create another. ATVs and side-by-sides can serve recreation, utility, agriculture, property use, and commercial needs. Snow products create another seasonal demand window. Power equipment can connect the dealership to customers who may not see themselves as powersports customers at all. Parts and service can then sit underneath all of it. That matters because now the dealership is not relying on one peak season to justify a 12-month cost structure. It has multiple categories contributing at different points of the year. It has more reasons for customers to return. It has more ways to use the same service infrastructure, more ways to generate parts demand, and more opportunities to trade customers across categories over time. A customer may enter through a watercraft. They may come back for service, then buy a side-by-side, then need accessories, then return for winter equipment, then consider a motorcycle. The exact path will vary by market, but the strategic point is the same. A well-designed multi-line dealership increases the number of ways a customer relationship can produce revenue. That is not just selling more things. That is building a broader absorption model. The wrong question is, how many brands does the dealer carry? The better question is, how much of the dealership's fixed cost structure can be absorbed across the full year? Can the same building earn in multiple seasons? Can the same service department support multiple categories? Can the same parts infrastructure serve different types of customers? Can the same management team convert product diversity into operating leverage instead of chaos? Can the dealership create demand when the main category slows down? This is where the conversation becomes more serious, because dealership health is not only about top-line sales. Revenue matters, but revenue alone can be misleading. A dealership can sell a lot and still be unhealthy if inventory is aging, gross margin is collapsing, floor plan is rising, and fixed costs are too high. A dealership can look busy and still be fragile. That is why absorption matters. The more a dealership can cover its fixed cost base through multiple departments, seasons, and categories, the less dependent it becomes on one product. And the less dependent it is on one product cycle, the more resilient it becomes when the market shifts. That is the strategic advantage. Not brand count, not showroom size, not the illusion of variety. The advantage is a better match between revenue timing and expense reality. There is a real strength in focus. A single brand or motorcycle first dealership can deliver a cleaner identity. The customer experience can be more focused. The staff can become more specialized. The facility can reflect one brand standard. The community can be more concentrated. The culture can be stronger. The training more specific. That matters. And in the right market with the right brand, the right density, the right service base, and the right customer loyalty, that model can absolutely work. But focus has a cost. If the core product category slows down, the whole business feels it. If the brand loses momentum, the dealer has fewer alternatives. If new unit demand weakens, there may not be another category strong enough to absorb the pressure. If inventory is pushed into the channel faster than the market can digest it, the dealer has fewer ways to balance the capital load. If weather, insurance, financing, or consumer confidence disrupts the main season, the store has limited protection. That's where purity can become fragile. The dealership must be clean, focused, and brand correct. But if the model only has one real demand engine, the business is exposed. And that exposure becomes more dangerous as the industry gets more expensive to operate. This matters more now because powersports retail is under pressure from multiple directions at once. Inventory is more expensive to carry. Customers are more payment sensitive. Insurance is a bigger barrier in some motorcycle categories. New rider development is weaker than many brands want to admit. Floor plan is more painful when turns slow down. Facilities are expensive. Technicians are difficult to recruit and retain. OEM expectations are not getting lighter. And dealers are expected to maintain professional infrastructure even when demand is uneven. That creates the central conflict. The industry wants strong retail infrastructure, but strong infrastructure needs enough revenue to support it. If the revenue model is too narrow, the pressure does not disappear. It simply moves. It shows up in discounting, in staffing, in aging inventory. It shows up in delayed investment, weaker customer experience, lower owner returns. This is why the dealership model matters. The industry cannot only ask how many units dealers are selling. It has to ask whether the model gives dealers enough ways to stay healthy, because unhealthy dealers eventually become a problem for everyone. Customers feel it, employees feel it, OEMs feel it, lenders feel it, and the brand experience suffers. The strongest dealer model is not necessarily the biggest. It is not necessarily the purest. It is not the one with the most brands. The stronger model is the one where the operating structure matches the market reality. In a year-round motorcycle market, that may be a focused motorcycle store. In a dense metro area with strong brand loyalty, that may be a single brand facility. In a seasonal region, the better model may look different. It may need water, road, off-road, equipment, snow, parts, service, used inventory, finance, and accessories working together as one economic system, not randomly, not cluttered, not as a collection of disconnected franchises, but as a deliberate 12-month revenue engine. That's the important distinction. The best multi-line powersports dealers are not just diversified, they're integrated. They use category mix to balance demand. They use service to create continuity. They use parts and accessories to deepen customer relationships. They use used inventory to recover capital and widen affordability. They use multiple seasons to keep the facility alive. That is infrastructure thinking. And that is the level at which the industry should be having this conversation. This is not about one store. It's not about one city. It's not even about Canada, US, Europe, Asia, Latin America. The broader question applies anywhere powersports demand is uneven and dealer infrastructure is expensive. A dealership in a seasonal motorcycle market faces a different reality than a dealership in a high-volume, year-round commuter market. A premium motorcycle store in North America faces a different demand structure than a small displacement dealer in Southeast Asia. A rural multi-line powersports dealer faces a different customer mix than an urban boutique motorcycle store. The mistake is pretending one retail model fits every market. It does not. Dealer infrastructure has to match the economic environment around it. That means OEMs, investors, and operators need to think more carefully about footprint, category mix, seasonality, capital intensity, and absorption. Because when the model does not match the market, the dealer carries the consequences, and eventually, so does the brand. This is why the multi-line powersports model deserves more serious attention. Not because every dealership should carry every category. That would be too simple, and not because motorcycle first stores are obsolete. They are not. But the industry needs to be more honest about the infrastructure problem. A dealership is a 12-month cost structure. If the revenue model is only strong for part of the year, the pressure eventually shows up somewhere. In margins, in staffing, in inventory aging, in floor plan, in discounting, in customer experience, in owner returns. Multi-line powersports is not automatically better. But when it is designed properly, it answers one of the most important questions in retail. What keeps the business healthy when the main season ends? That may be the real difference between a dealership that looks strong during peak demand and a dealership that is structurally built to last. Because the future of powersports retail may not belong to the dealer with the biggest sign. It may belong to the dealer with the strongest 12-month revenue engine. If you work inside the powersports business and want clearer analysis of the forces shaping dealer economics, market structure, and network performance, subscribe to PSX, the Standard.